So we're gonna, sorry to interrupt the conversations, we're gonna ask I guess the presenters for each group to quickly report back, 2 minutes high level. Just want to let you know this isn't the end of the conversation, this is just the start of the conversation. We're gonna be getting all these notes to the task force that we formed, and then they're gonna look at the viability of a lot of the ideas we provided to them, so this is a great jumping off point. So I'm gonna ask Career Development to present first on their you guys can co-present. Teamwork.
So, my name is Krista Moreno. I'm going to work with Maria Long Anderson. How do you say your last name? D2. And I'm so.
Is the mic on?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. Talk into it.
Perfect. So our area is career development. We went over a lot of different things. Many of the issues that people brought up was there is not a clear career path to people. And you know, one of the things we talked about was there isn't necessarily a career path anymore, so helping people understand the different ways they can navigate the university and opportunities. Promoting internally was another concern. There's more people being brought from the outside of the university versus looking at our internal talents and the institutional knowledge that people have developed. The other idea that I think was really, really good we talked about was once you get the experience, for example, I just finished P&G. Once you get that experience and the networking and the contacts, then what? How about we look at job shadowing and apprenticeships to get people in the door, get them actually doing some of the work so they can put it on their resume.
So
We're passionate.
So maybe another
One
minute.
more, yeah, one more.
We want all of it.
Yes, all
So
of
make
it.
sure we get it.
So we have a good one.
So, one person was talking about codifying the education with certificates, looking at working with extension, for example, to fill empty seats with people with deserving staff members who want to get training and certificates. There's always an empty seat to fill. We could add that into our benefits. It's nothing to consider.
Yeah, and I think there was a lot of frustration about payroll caps and the perception, whether it's real or perceived, that we go outside of the university to bring in talent instead of leveraging the institutional knowledge that is present here. So there's a lot of upsetness about that. And we wanted to make sure that, you know, if we say we want our managers to get our back and push us up the career path, how do we make them do it other than, you know, mandating it in the performance review? You must be willing to let go of your staff and promote them up. How do you do that?
The career development phase.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. The career development fair. So there's career development events on campus for students and graduates, but what about departments on campus coming and showcasing their departments and talking about how we can all jump ship and do solutions?
All right, thank you. Turn over to organizational change. Who's our presenter?
Do you need a microphone?
Yeah.
Okay, let's see, where do I stand? Eugene, you're not recording this, are you?
I am.
He knows I'm an idiot on camera, so. Okay, so organizational change, is this on? A lot of ideas came kind of rapid fire, which was really exciting. I think it really spoke to the fact that people see this as a definite need, that we need to address this. One of the first comments was about the separation of various pockets of campus. There's north-south, there's health sciences, there's campus, there's admin, there's academic. So, you know, trying to find ways to cross these boundaries was something we talked about. There was a theme kind of running throughout about communication and explanation for changes. Changes might be going on, they might be good changes, but the explanation and the communication around it isn't quite as robust as the actual change. So some more work in the explanation, explaining why things are going on, as well as, what's going on, and get that out to the right people. Good ideas, but no follow-up. Oh, the smoking policy. I'm going to leave that right there. And also thinking through ideas of how to engage staff in the planning phase, and really taking the time to plan in a thoughtful way and in an engaging way, so that the changes have kind of buy-in built in, and that they can be enacted and stick over time. Stop separating staff, faculty, and students. Find ways to work together a little bit more, find common ground, and communicate our changes that way. We kind of diverged a little bit as talking about UC Path as kind of an example of where this might have been done better, and some of the challenges that they faced. And also, leaning a little bit on leadership to take ownership of communicating news, good, bad, progress, and otherwise. We hear about success. We don't always hear about the failures and what we learned from that. So that would be a good thing to do too. So coach leadership to communicate wins and losses. Where else? How am I doing?
Just 30 more seconds.
And high-level leaders taking ownership of various projects. The no smoking policy came up as an example. Okay, we have a policy, but who's backing that? How do we enforce that? Who's the accountable party? And who's responsible for the enforcement? And this happened in a side conversation. I think I was talking to somebody else. The commitment to the change. Anyway, these notes aren't making. But anyway, yeah, just I think these have to do with taking advantage of the current structures in place in terms of staff assembly and the academic senate, and leveraging those groups to communicate change and enact some change. Did I miss anything?
No. Good job. Thank you. We're going to hand it off to
Patty, because the Gino ran away, so.
Okay. Can someone from Working Relationships, or you guys could decide and we could give it to performance management first.
I'll give it a try. Regina's going to help me
I'm gonna hold
because
you
I don't
guys
know that I can.
to 2 minutes, so then we can have time to wrap
So
up.
this was working
That's good.
relationships, and some of the things that we thought were very important were cooperation and sharing information between the organization. So being able to get information when you need it. So sharing innovations and best practices, transparency, communication, so having two-way communications, knowing what the expectations are and having the communication be clear. Having the resources you need, the tools, access to facilitate communication, like many parts of the campus don't use the same email system or the same calendaring, so you think that you're communicating and actually it's not being received at all, or it doesn't work together. Having appropriate coverage, that was your example, right? If there's only one person who has the knowledge and that person isn't there, then that could just have things fall down. So that tied into cross-training, the ability to support in absence of the expert or the point person. And it says availability. I don't know.
That's availability.
I don't remember what that
I think it
meant.
was just that people are available, and they kind of went with flexible down there as well.
Okay. Having the staff more aligned or engaged with the faculty, having it more integrated, not the separation between staff and faculty. Common visions and missions, goals, driving behaviors. I don't remember what that one meant either. Having team building activities like extracurricular activities that connect the staff. I think the picnic was mentioned. Professional development opportunities that also connect the staff. Okay, so this is our second go around. Flexibility. compassion, empathetic, seeing each other as individuals. I'm just reading this because I really don't want to expand on it. Ability to leverage relationships to move through the bureaucracy. So sometimes being able to, instead of going to the level where you think is appropriate, being able to know where the information is and just going directly to it and not being only uncomfortable if you're going above or below the actual line. So that's to be comfortable, to be able to give ideals, express yourself, and to be able to give and receive the feedback and criticism.
Okay. Thank you. Last but not least, performance management.
So we talked about, in regards to job performance and compensation. So we talked a lot about the compensation caps and salary caps. I know that was also mentioned in another group, as well as having some sort of rewards or incentive program. Cash bonuses would be nice. And then someone brought up better training for newly promoted managers or supervisors. So just because an individual is great at the individual task or responsibility, it's another thing to be managing the team or managing folks. So it's really important to have that management training, and also to have direct review, to have a full 360 review, not just the individual. And then we also talked about, I think this was talked about that you had mentioned, learning or doing something, spending 5% of your time doing something outside of your own job just to get another point of view and things, and just in forms of development. And then I think another group spoke about this too, is using the resources instead of going out to external organizations or resources, to use what's right in front of us within the organization of UCLA. And then really to use performance evaluations for succession planning. So we're doing these evaluations. Well, what are we doing? Is it just to rate people, or are we going to, what are we going to do with this information to make sure people are succeeding in their career paths? And then kind of regular feedback, not just a one-time review of our performance, such as having regular one-on-ones with direct reports, and then kind of reviewing what our job descriptions are. That's about it.
So I want to thank you everyone for presenting, scribing. We'll make sure we get these notes out to everyone. But more importantly, just want to give yourselves a hand as well. It's really important that you guys are engaged. So these are the next steps. As I mentioned earlier, we've recommended to create task forces, so we're going to move forward with those. The expected commitment of it is we've laid out here. We're estimating about 4 hours for the general members, maybe 1 hour a week to research like the topics that you're exploring regarding some of the areas that you guys touched upon. The co-leads, we're expecting to have to spend more time. We're hoping to have co-leads for each of the task forces so that it's not, the burden's not on one individual. And then this way, also the co-leads have to probably put together the report and whatnot, working with all their task force members. And the frequency will really be determined by the task forces themselves, how often they meet. Whether it's virtually, we can use Zoom now, so you guys can meet a conference call half an hour, however you guys decide. But it's really we're gonna make sure the groups are autonomous, and you guys can do that and kind of decide for yourselves. And then we'll do our best to support quarterly meetings to basically get updates from the task forces on your progress. But mainly the goal for the task force is to provide an actionable recommendation or recommendations for the UCLA leadership, or even specifically the people that could actually be in the position to make changes in those specific areas. So as what we're gonna do next is we're gonna, and here's some benefits overall too, just so you know. By participating in the task force, you'll be able to expand your network. I mean, Kevin and I are your representatives for the CUCSA, because we're the president-elect here at UCLA, but then we get to serve on a larger level through UC system-wide, and we've learned a lot from other campuses and brought some ideas back. So I think you'll see that as long as you get to work with other departments, you'll probably learn a lot of great things that are happening throughout UCLA. And then you get to share, implement best practices, apply your leadership skills, especially, I think Krista mentioned PDP. This is your real life PDP now. Like, you're out in the world, you have a chance to really present in front of leadership instead of just a pilot program. This is an actual program that they might possibly adopt. So we get to apply that, and then opportunity to work with UCLA leadership, which is really rare. And then resume builder, and just at the end of the day, this is what's in it for me. Like, I just want to be a major part of making change on the campus for all staff, so that we have better experience all around. So hopefully you guys feel the same way. And just so it's not so daunting, Willis Towers Watson is the company that we work with, the consulting company we work with that do this. You guys are probably aware of them. Willis Towers in Chicago is named after this group that merged with another company. They work with a lot of major companies. They have this project management tool that we have available. So you'll see all the four like priority area task forces listed right there. And then we'll have a chance to, we're trying to get a login for each group is one of their goals right now. And if not, we might have to share one, but we'll see what the resources are. But ultimately, we still have access to this tool. And then they have a repository of best practices of the companies they work with, major companies, Fortune 500 companies around the world, so that you can see what other companies are doing, and maybe we can use that. And if not, you just type in your own, what you're doing, and you can check off if you completed or if you're in progress on those particular areas. So it's a great way for us to manage across the system, so it's not so daunting across the campus. And finally, this is the timeline. We met today. So our goal is to have people go through the applications. We're going to send out an email link, a website link after this forum, and then ask you guys to apply that are interested in being a co-lead or a participant. And then we're going to work with the recommendations that have been given to us. And just to be transparent, we're going to look through the different recommendations for co-leads and then interview them, and then try to identify one co-lead for each group, and then hopefully they'll be able to work with us to sift through the applications as well as we pick our task forces. And then the idea is that you guys will be able to meet, if not by May, these are all fluid, but at the same time, this is like a target. So then if you guys can meet by May, the task forces, and then start coming up with some recommendations, and then hopefully by September, you guys can kind of finalize that report, and then let us, we will present that to leadership or the powers that be. And then we'll do quarterly kind of progress updates. And this leads up to next year, as we mentioned, every 2 years. So 2019, May, is going to be the next UC engagement survey, so we get to see how we've improved in those areas. At the end of the day, this is meant to, don't look at this as so much like a report card. It's really meant to let us know how we're currently doing and where we can continue to improve. So it's not, again, end all and be all. It's basically a process. And lastly, we want to leave you with this slide and a nice little cartoon, hopefully. So, with that said, most of you already follow us, or we're not even follow us there. But here's the link to apply right now, and then we'll send a follow-up email with all the assets and all the raw data from the survey that we'll share with you. But thank you again for participating. I'll give you guys time to definitely mingle and get some more food. Is there any questions that you guys had before we close out? No questions? Oh, question in the back?
Are the slide decks that we provided?
Yes, we're going to provide the slide deck in our follow-up email, but we'll also post it on our website, because there's a lot of people that weren't able to make it. So Eugene's recording right now, so we're going to have a recording of this one for those that weren't able to attend. Thank you. Great question. No, all right, well, thank you, and have a good day.
Thanks, Bob.